Good morning. Well, I know y'all haven't heard from me for a couple of days. I think today is Tuesday. I got up early and I've been working on this all morning. I have lots to do, but I just want to get one of these things out. I've been enjoying. I've been enjoying going through our Bible with my new eyeballs and my new ears and with my new heart. And I'm just, I really just enjoy this. I really do. All right. If you guys that are new, my name is Rick Worth, and what I'm doing is teaching people how to read their Bibles by a way method of code. There's a code of 1 through 9, and each one of these numbers means something. And it is stated in the Bible as the days of creation. And of course, I wrap things all up in this idea of returning home to the Father by way of the message that is found in the code is one of going into meditation and communing with this Lord. All right, but in spirit. And that our Bible tells us through a storyboard, so to speak, where the Word is made flesh, where actually we have to take the flesh away back and put it back into words to find out what the message is all about. And that's what I do. That's what I've been doing. And many other people have done this too, but no one's gone to the point of trying to put it into the number system and showing you how it actually is written. In some instances they say, these things never came numbered. But, I have to say that's false, because the number system is in all of these stories, not just in the Bible. And when I did find something out there in one of the fairy tales, it didn't have anything on there. What the hell? There's some dog in our backyard. But anyways, it didn't have numbers like in this started here, but I put numbers on them and it worked out perfectly in the same thing. So even if they were it's just the carefully made out way of how something was written. It's very mechanical in its way. There's a giant dog that came in the backyard. It's probably going to take a big old dump. Get out of here. God, scare that bitch. So anyways, at today's lesson, we're still following along in Matthew. And what's interesting in Matthew, the number system works out so well. We just did one for Matthew 13. 13, if you take the 3 and the 1, becomes a 4, and it was about worlds. And as I went through the story, through the chapter, the word world, the world kept showing up. World. So it teaches us how to read and understand the Bible better. All right, and also just prior to that, we were learning how in the Bible, how in its form, how once you get an ear for this and an eye for this and you understand it and stuff like that, it's about sowing seeds. It's about gaining the truth and basically reading Scripture correctly. That's all it meant. This is the seed that is sown, whether it is sown by the wayside, which is religion, and it gets eaten up. It gets just devoured by the wicked one. And we're the ones that were planted on firm ground, and it was really in this idea of meditation and going inside versus outside. And that's what all of these stories are about. And of course, right now in Matthew 14 is going to be about us. All right, so ahead of time, I would like to tell you that this is about the beheading of John the Baptist. All right. A lot of people thought he was Elijah, which was a prophet, and also everyone thinks that Jesus is this guy. But he precedes Jesus, and just the fashion of meditation, because first Jesus has to be born, and then the next time we hear about him is when he's being baptized by John himself, and we know John as being someone that is in camel skin and he eats locusts. That's about the extent of that. And that he says that, he baptizes you with water. He says the one that comes after me baptizes you with the Holy Spirit, all right, which is fire. And we know the Holy Spirit as the mother of us all, Miss Jerusalem, which is above, that is free, and that's the right side of our mind. Okay? So, but anyways, this John the Baptist, back in the Babylonian times, he's the god of water. His name is Ea. But when you translate Ea to I guess English, you get the word John. So it's John. That's Aquarius. That's just the point in the spin of this. The story, the celestial story that's being unraveled. But anyways, we get this idea of the beheading of John the Baptist, and it's really, looking at like it's not a good subject, but in all reality, what is also being revealed is that if you believe in the top part of the story kills, and so you look at this as being scary. Whoa, it's a prophecy of some kind, that's being fulfilled. That's scary, someone being beheaded. But in if you were to understand that what's in the spirit of this text, it saves you. So this end of times isn't scary for people who read the Bible, the way it was intended, and that is that it's this new you, this change of mind. Is a glorious thing. It's a happy thing. It's what you want. I can think of the only people that would fear it would be, the devil himself. All right, and so if you understand me there, you'll know why what I teach you is bad for them. And why I only get 10 people to really read through any of this shit, It's just that people just don't want to know the truth. And it's written right in front of them, too. So what I'm going to key you in on this one here, this Matthew 14 is going to be about our skin and all the different things they call it. It's a vessel, all right? It's the ship. Tells people to get into ships back and forth, get into the ship and out of the ship, and earlier it's a house, in the house or out of the house, right? In the tent, out of the tent. These are things, you're talking about, being in and out of something. You're in something, this happens, dong, 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 when you're out of something, this happens, So this story is actually a very positive story, believe it or not. But when somebody gets their head cut off, they're separating themselves. 5, the number 5 is our skin, so our senses is separating you. So you cut off your senses, and between your skin and the spiritual side, what's solid and what's what you see and what you don't see. All right. So that's the idea of being fed loaves. All we have are 5 loaves, and 2 fish, to feed off of. And so they feed the multitudes off of this. This never happened in real life. That's just crazy. But you'll find that the word multitudes, whenever they have, when the multitudes are gathering, they're gathering on the number 5. All throughout here, all these 5s in here, and the multitudes are moved with compassion, Uh, and when he sent forth the multitudes, 5. And when they were come in the ship, when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. All of this is talking about the body. This is the sacrifice. Later on, you're going to see how this works down the line. But right now, it's talking about you. And it says here, the worlds are also changing. The number 4 shows up in here 4 times. The number 4 as you go through the story. And it's taking you from the West, which is your mind, your intellectual side, which is the worlds. We just did that. Intellectual is the West. Has I got this right? Yeah, it's the West side. Emotional side is the North. The physical side is the South. And the spiritual side is the East. And this is the direction that you want to go in. So this 4 would be the very first one. For John said unto him, it is not lawful for thee to have her. And he's talking about this woman that's it's neighbor, it's his brother's wife. You understand? Neighbors is neighbor's wife, and you're not allowed to have that. He says it's against the law. All right, that's number 4. That's the first 4. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the peoples had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of their cities. This is 4, it's about their cities. These are the people, and this is a desert place. He's departed apart. This is this idea in his ship. He's separating from these people. But then when they heard about it, they set out on foot to find him, because it's right before 6, which is gathering. All right. But anyways, here's a 4. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. This is the command to go into meditation. This is the 1-4. So this would be the south. And then this other 4 says, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. And he said unto him, O thou have little faith, where therefore didst thou doubt? This is 4. 4 would be E, because he stretched out his hand and he caught him. And remember, it's those that have the little faith that are going to inherit this kingdom, this idea that what I wrote down here, blessed are they the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So this helps to tie that in with that. So anyways, this was the worlds working through this story. All right. And so now let's go through it all. Let's go through it all really fast. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm trying to talk fast, but if you can't handle this, then speed the goddamn thing up. It's a whole lesson, and you only learn by the whole damn thing. All right. So we have learned. All right. We'll just do it as we go. At that time, Herod heard the teachings and the fame of Jesus, and said unto his servants, this is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth from themselves in him. All right. For Herod had laid hold of John and bound him, and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother's Philip's wife. Okay, so this is the first 3. All right, Herodias actually means it's the female side of Herod, if you understand. And all of these things are talking about the outside. These are kingdoms. This guy was a tetrarch from this Herod the Tetrarch, which means he's one of 4 rulers, okay? Just one of the 4 rulers, and he's talking about earth. He's talking about, if he's one of 4, then it's one of the worlds, all right? And so his idea is that, he knows this guy, John the Baptist, been talking shit about his brother's wife. Says he ain't allowed to have them, all right? And that it's unlawful. And so, motherfucker went and locked him up. But he loved listening to him talk, so he wasn't going to kill him, all right? Because he feared the multitude, all right? So, for John said unto him, it is not lawful for him to have her. We know about thou shalt not keep thy neighbor's wife, all right? And that's your brother. And the other thing about that is that that's representing the lower. And we're going to change that. That's what happens here. You'll find out that this is the trick behind the whole thing. All right. And when he would put him to death, which is number 5, which is your skin, and when he would put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted on him. They counted him as a prophet. Remember, that's 5. Skin. You are the prophet. You're the one that's going to bring forth change in your world. All right. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herod's danced before him and pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised her to give her anything that she would ask. This was number 7. And she asked, being therefore instructed by her mother, said, give me John the Baptist's head on a charger. And the king was very sorry. Relentless, therefore, the oath that he's made. I mean, he had to keep this oath. And them that sat with him in meat, he commanded it to be given to her. This was number 9. All right, this is a change of consciousness. That's what this means, because she's a maiden. She's being known right now as a damsel, and that's a good thing. All right. And he sent and beheaded John in prison. This is number 1. And his head was brought in a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it up to her. She brought it to her mother. That's number 2. All right. It's actually, it's number 11 in the scripture, but that makes number 2. So this was his head, and she was bringing it to the mother. She's getting ready to join it. This is how things work. This is how it works in our mind when it comes down to this idea of meditation. You get this idea from the north. This is the damsel. It's a part of our emotions that allows us. I want this, and she danced, and she's tricking the left side out of something that he really wanted. Out of his narratives. This is the trick in the book again. And she's bringing it to her mother, all right? This is a positive sign. This is an absolutely positive sign, all right? For here is number 3, the intervention. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it, and went to tell Jesus. Number 3, that's an intervention. This is number 12 in the story. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the city. And Jesus went forth and saw the great multitude, and was moved with compassion towards them, and healed their sick. This is the 5. The body is being healed now, at this time. All right? And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, this is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals, food. Number 7. But Jesus said unto him, they need not depart. Give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fish. He said, Bring them hither to me. I'm going to stop there because that's number 18, which is 9. That's an end of a story. There's an end of something. And what's really beautiful about this is that you'll find, and she being before instructed by her mother said, Give me here John the Baptist's head in a charger. Means it's being served up. Purposely served up. This is, on a platter, all right? And the king very sorrowly said, nevertheless, the oath, for oath's sakes, I've got to do it, all right? All right, so he sent and beheaded John, all right? This is the idea that now he's slipping into meditation. And, of course, we're going to tell you this story that she's taking this up to her mother, all right? But the water is not missing from these stories. His head was brought in the charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. And then the people came and got the body because there was nothing left of it and buried it. All right, that's his disciples, which are the body, the people representing, the part of you, came and took the body. All right. I think, let's see, what am I trying to get at? In the evening, when they said that they were send the multitudes away to get something to eat. This is number 6. This is top of the ladder. Jesus comes in at 7. He says, no, they needn't depart. Let's give them something to eat here. 8 is usually the feast. 7 and 8. And they laid down and they said, all we have was 5 this and 2 fish. 5 is the body. This is your sacrifice. This is the loaves. And the 2 fish. It's just so really pretty the way it is, but it's really representing the duality between us. So you have both the good and the bad, and the 5 in duality. That's why we have 2 fish. The number's 5 and the number 2, and when you put them all together, you get 7. All right, which is completion. And so what he does, it's actually talking about you. He says, bring these things to me, and he holds them up in the air, he lifts them up. All right, and he splits them in half. That's what we have to do. And he gives it to his disciples, and then the disciples gives them to the multitude. So you'll see that the disciples are actually the part of the 12. The 12 that's getting fed. When we're done, we have 12 full baskets. All right, when we're done, you've been fed. All of these are done, and that's really what that is about. Is that, this is where you're supposed to go, and this is that manna from heaven in earlier stories. All right, and they're going to do this again later on, because they're going to do this exact same story but with different numbers later on. All right, I just happened to read ahead on this one. Let's see here. What else would have been neat to have found out? And here on the 7th, which is number 25, the number 20, verse 25. And in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let's go back into town here. Starting off with 1, which is 19. So it's 19, 20, 21, and so forth. But remember, it's about the number system, how it repeats. And he commanded the multitude to sit on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up into heaven, he blessed and brake them, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and to the disciples, and from the disciples to the multitudes. And they did all eat, and were filled. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. All right, that's 1, 2, and 3. We're going to stop there for a moment. All these fives, this is about our skin. 5,000 men. 5 is about our skin. The skin was, our 5 senses was the 12 baskets. Again, this represents the brethren. All right, this whole thing is about the body. All right, about the individual. Let's go forward. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. This number, this 22, is number 4. This is our, we're changing our world again. All right, and this one here, he is telling everyone to he's constrained the disciples. This is the skin. He's restrained them. He says, "Go and get into a ship, and go before me unto the other side, while I send the multitudes away." He's killing the skin. He's cutting the head off, which is what this whole story is about. Killing the skin. It's gonna be it. This is it, man. All right. Number 5, which is number 23. And when he had sent the multitudes away, and when he went up into a mountain apart to pray, and the evening was come, he was there all alone. That's number 5. Number 6. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with the waves, for the wind was contrary. Number 7. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. All right, so before I turn this, he sent the multitudes away. Now he's going up on a mountain to pray. And when the evening come, he was all alone. All right, darkness is falling and what have you. The ship is now in the midst of the sea. This is the number 24, which represents 6, the top of the ladder. All right. The winds were contrary. This is the wind. Again, this idea, this is where Jesus is usually met in the air. All right. This is theta conscious, and this is also represents the 7, number 7. All right. All right. Here is number 26. And the disciples saw him walking on the sea, and they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit," and they cried out in fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, and don't be afraid. That's number 9. This is to assure you that this is a good thing. It's a nice thing. 9 is about consciousness. Don't be afraid of this. All right? And now it starts a new story. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come to thee on the water. 2. And Jesus says, Come. And when Peter was come down from the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Did you understand? I hope you're seeing this. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and he began to sink, and he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of the truth, thou art the Son of God. And when they were gone over, they came into a land of Gennesaret. All right. This is number 7 from the verse 34. You understand? And Gennesaret is a beautiful place on the plain, which means that, now this lower mine has been claimed, and it's now a garden of riches. All right. And so that's what Gennesaret means. But I want to back this up just some, okay? All right? Because what it is when Peter answered him, "Oh Lord, if it be there, can I come with you?" So he's talking with one, all right? And he says, "Come, be with me." That's 2. That's him and his maker, whatever. And 3 is, oh my goodness, this is the intervention part. And he's boisterous, and Jesus, because he heard the wind, he said, "Yeah, come on." And he walked on the water to go and see Jesus. This is when you're in your ship and you've gotten out of your ship. All right? I hope you're finding this. I'm trying to get your ear on this. All right? When he gets closer to Jesus, the winds kind of scare him, and he begins to sink, and then Jesus reaches out and touches him, because this is where you find him, in the wind. You see him in the air. He says, "I'll come to you in the air." All right? And he asks, he says, "If I come to thee, bid you, would I come to you?" He says, "Come to me, walk on the water with me, come find me." All right? Oh, and then let's see, and then they got back into the ship, the wind ceased, because they were both together now, They came back into the ship together. That's the idea. Jesus came out from the outside, came into them. That's joining together. That's what this whole idea is about. Cutting off the head. It took that to get there. All right. So now they were gone over, and they came into the land of Gennesaret. So this is the other side of the 4. They've landed into something beautiful. They've landed to the east, which is now. This is where they wanted to go. It followed through the entire story. We still have. "And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all the country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased." All right? That's 8. Verse number 36, which represents 9, the consciousness. "And besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made perfectly whole." That's the whole idea. This is all positive. This is a beautiful story about the idea of bringing somebody into one with themselves, starting with cutting off their head. All right, and that it be done by a woman this time, the damsel, who takes it up to her mother and sets all of this stuff into process. So let's see, what was it that I might have missed out on here? The plane. You understood perhaps the ship. We were inside the ship and outside of the ship. They were in a desert. Where'd you get this desert from? This desert and wilderness are the same ideas of this being out there. This where the trees are in the wilderness. Where everyone. It's like everything looks the same no matter where you look, and it's a type of just confusion and stuff like that. Which is representing the outside, and so they're wanting to close themselves off from this, which there's so many different ways. Make yourself a gopher, make yourself an ark out of gopher wood, right? Let's see, in the country, this word of country is the way, when they went off, that's when we're back in our regular self, and they sent out over the whole country, because this is you now, and this is the new you, and it just happens to wind up under number 8. So the beheading of John the Baptist, it's a wonderful story, all right? And I hope to help make more sense out of this. That really what happens is this king is now overthrown in this story, which is they're teaching you how to overthrow the king, you know, and it's just I think it's just wonderful. If you have any questions, give me a holler, you know. I'm just trying to set the idea that the code will help you understand what the book is talking about. And you just lay those numbers out beside there. And this one here was good because number 7 and 8 actually became a buffet. So you'll know that on the positive side of things, that's what this is about. And of course, at the end stories, when Jesus is actually beheaded, not Jesus is beheaded, but Judas is beheaded for giving about Jesus, you'll find it's all a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. It's very important that this left side be tricked out of its inheritance, you know, because it doesn't need to work on its own. You know, look at the trouble it gets us in. It's working with the whole mind. Now you're serving the Lord with all of your heart and all of your mind. And you're doing it the correct way. All right, I love you guys. Take care of yourselves.